yesterday there was a Nintendo Direct. And to everyone's disappointment, there was no Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD announced for Nintendo Switch. Now, this is very concerning because what simply seems like a simple port of two very good Wii U games, by the way, over to Nintendo Switch. This is really strange because it hasn't happened yet. And Nintendo, I think, are kind of proving that they have no interest in putting the Zelda collection onto Nintendo Switch. If they were that desperate to put Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD on the Switch, I think, to be honest, they would have done it by now. I mean, last year they released Skyward Sword HD, which kind of did make people think, oh wait, hang on, if they're releasing Skyward Sword HD, this means that Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD are definitely coming to Switch. That seems to not be the case right now. I feel like Nintendo just don't have any interest in releasing these games for Switch at the moment. And I think there's a reason for this. And I'm going to be completely blunt about it, and I can see you like disliking this video already, and I know that, so I do apologize. This is a bit of a negative start to this video. And I'm just going to be truthful about it. Like, you can talk to me in the comments and let me know how you feel about the fact that Nintendo haven't released these two games yet. But the reason I believe this is because I kind of did a little bit of research to the Zelda games that Nintendo have released. So not just specifically Zelda games, but the HD ports. So for example, Skyward Sword HD, the remakes on the 3DS, so Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Also, the original Wii U editions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. And I looked to see how many copies that these games had sold. When you actually look at the statistics of these games, you'll notice that really they didn't actually do that well in sales. Like, for example, Wind Waker originally on the GameCube only sold 4.43 million copies, which does sound like a large number. But really, in hindsight, that isn't actually a huge number in the gaming industry. And when you move on to Twilight Princess, the original game on the Wii only released 7.26 million. So that's a little bit more than Wind Waker sold, but that was a launch title for the Wii. This means really that these games in reality didn't really do that well. And when you think about it, in the gaming industry, these are companies that are running businesses. So they aren't going to put time and effort into games that in reality might not make any money. When you look at the sales of Skyward Sword HD, which came out last year on the Switch, that game only sold 3.91 million. So that game didn't even reach the sales of the original Wind Waker on the GameCube. Wind Waker HD on the Wii U only sold 2.35 million copies. I'm getting my information off this website called VG Charts. Okay, so you could probably call this out and say, that's just one website. These statistics might not even be true. And you might be absolutely correct here. You might be correct. I mean, I've looked at various websites, and to be honest, most of the statistics on these websites are roughly around the same. So it's proving that while Zelda is a very popular franchise, just because it's a popular franchise with many games doesn't mean that these games sell like hotcakes. I know for a fact that even I myself have said that if Nintendo released Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD on the Switch, those games would sell like hotcakes. But after a little bit of research and really thinking about it, I'm starting to question if that would actually happen. Because I kind of think that these two games won't sell on the Nintendo Switch. And it's proven this through the fact that Skyward Sword HD really didn't do that well. And I know that Skyward Sword HD wasn't that popular of a game anyway, as it was released during the tail end of the Wii's life cycle. What's happened here is Nintendo have realised that Breath of the Wild has been a massive success for them. Breath of the Wild sold 27.14 million copies. So Breath of the Wild is actually Nintendo's most successful Zelda game. Out of all the Zelda games that there's been, Breath of the Wild has by far been the most successful. So it's only makes sense for Nintendo to make a sequel in Tears of the Kingdom, because they know that that game will make a lot of money, as it is basically riding a piggyback off Breath of the Wild. So it's bound to make money. But when you think that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess didn't make anywhere near that amount of sales and copies, Nintendo might be a little bit skeptical to release the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD on Switch, as I feel like there would be a little bit of concern from Nintendo that they might not make profit from these games. You have to remember that Nintendo is a business. It's a company. It's a business that wants to make money. So the games they release, whether they be good, great, bad, okay, these games might be what fans want, but if Nintendo aren't going to make money off these games, as the people who are not Zelda fans might not be interested in these games. Breath of the Wild has been a kind of event game, and I feel like Tears of the Kingdom will also be an event game, where even people who are not familiar with Zelda will be interested in this game. You have to remember that Breath of the Wild was a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. It came out during what was arguably Nintendo's biggest release console of all time. Like, it was so big when it came out. It was a very popular console and a lot of people were really interested in Nintendo Switch. More so than the GameCube and the N64. I mean, you could argue the Wii was more popular, but the Nintendo Switch has definitely become Nintendo's most iconic and popular console in this current day and age. It made sense for Breath of the Wild to make a lot of sales. So it's obvious right now that Nintendo are more in tune with making sure that they release Tears of the Kingdom rather than releasing 2 HD games. And yes, I get it. It sounds and looks like these games are super easily portable from Wii U over to Switch. You know, that could maybe shorten development time. I'm not going to say this is gospel at the end of the day. Nintendo could announce that Twilight Princess and Wind Waker are definitely coming to Switch within the coming months. It could happen. I'm expecting there to be a Zelda-specific Nintendo Direct within this time period from now until when Tears of the Kingdom is released. And for all we know, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess could be announced in that Direct. I highly doubt it, personally, but it could happen. It could happen. Like, we just have to wait and find out. But I think the reason we have not seen these games ported to Switch yet is because the sales of these games originally were very lackluster for Nintendo. And they probably didn't make profit off Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. And yes, you can argue that it's because they were on the Wii U, which was a disaster for Nintendo. The Wii U was a great console that just happened to have bad sales because of the marketing for that console, which really killed it off from day one. All we can do right now is just hope that Nintendo release Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. Now, I'm not an insider or an expert or anything to do with Nintendo sales or, you know, I just speculate and talk about this because this is what I do. This is what I like to do on here. I talk about these things. These are the conversations I like to have on my channel. I really want to see these games on Switch. I'm sure every Zelda fan out there wants to see these games come to Switch. I do already own the 2 games on the Wii U, but having the games on a portable console would be heaven. It would be great. And I was there for Skyward Sword HD when that came out. I definitely bought Skyward Sword HD because I'm just a massive Zelda fan, so I'm going to buy every Zelda game that's released. If they were to announce Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, I think, not to add more fire to the flame here, but I think they would be more likely to announce the 2 games after Tears of the Kingdom has been released. Almost like they did with Age of Calamity, which was kind of like a little kind of taster for keeping people interested in the Zelda series. I feel like if they were to release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD before Tears of the Kingdom, it might be a little bit overkill on Zelda. Nintendo right now seem to be going on a very minimalist marketing strategy with Tears of the Kingdom. They aren't releasing much info. They aren't showing us too much. And I kind of respect that because it means that the game isn't going to be overcrowded in its marketing when it comes to the game being released, and we know everything about this game from day one. We are going to experience Tears of the Kingdom, and we are going to find out what the game includes when the game is released. I feel like Nintendo will do a kind of Nintendo Direct specifically for Tears of the Kingdom, and we've just got to wait for that. I don't know when that'll be, and please don't take that as gospel because it might not happen, but I feel like that's something that Nintendo will do. This is now the time period where Nintendo will be marketing Tears of the Kingdom, so I feel like this is their next mission now. Once they get Tears of the Kingdom out of the way, it's going to be a free-for-all for whatever the next big Nintendo game will be, which will probably be Metroid Prime 4. So we just need to wait this out and see what happens. And like I say, please don't take this in gospel. This is just kind of a discussion video, and I'm hoping that this can be something that we can all talk about and hope. And if you like this kind of content, You can also catch me on my streams here. So on YouTube, I do streams every Monday and Tuesdays around about 8:30 p.m. UK time up until 11 p.m. And in those streams, I always chat about Nintendo stuff. So for the last few streams, I've been talking about the Nintendo Direct. This is the kind of stuff that I talk about in my streams. So please do catch my streams if you've liked this content. Also, if you've liked this video, please do catch my other videos. In my last video, I talked about my Nintendo 3DS collection, which you can watch over here. You can watch it here in this video. And please, guys, if you've liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I will see you around for more discussions. Thank you for watching. Bye.